In episode 1 of Practical Stoicism, I remarked that Marcus Aurelius was, or is, the most well-known brand ambassador, I said, of Stoicism. Second to him, I believe, Seneca, then Epictetus, and then Zeno of Cithaeron. In keeping with that opinion, I thought we'd start with Marcus's meditations, the first 17 of which were recorded on the River Gran, among the Quadi people. We are not going to go through all 17 of these meditations in this episode. That would take far too long. Instead, we'll go through just one and discuss the rest over the course of episodes 3 through 18. Why stretch it out? Well, while the meditations in this first portion are short and easy to read through, the points they make are anything but shallow, and I want to dedicate due time to each of them. With that said, let's begin. Book 2, Meditation 1. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I will deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but of the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together, like feet, hands, and eyes, like the 2 rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on them, these are obstructions. Personally, I think that this is a powerful and telling way to start our delve into Stoicism. Notice the 3 primary points of what Marcus has said here. Neither of them suggest cold detachment from other human beings. None of them suggest that we check out and become emotionless or callous individuals. They seem to suggest exactly the opposite. Let's break these items down. What is Marcus really telling us here? Number 1, that the grumpy and unkind attitudes of others cannot make us grumpy and unkind. Other people do not have that control over us. Number 2, those grumpy and unkind people are human beings, just like we are. So we should not hate them or feel ill will towards them, since they are, in a way, ourselves. And number 3, that the duty of human beings is to work together with other human beings. We are intended to encourage, to participate, to bring peace, and never to make friction or to otherwise oppose our fellow human beings, because this would take away from our shared mutual happiness or contentment. For the Stoics, this was to be inhuman. So then our first basic combined tenet of Stoicism is this: the world is full of imperfect, unkind, and ungrateful people, but they are only that way because they've not had the benefit of good philosophical training, and for this reason, we should seek not to hate them, but to regard them as we would hope someone would regard us if we were deficient in some way. We should not allow them to disturb our character or to take away from our inner peace, and ultimately, we should effort to make them better and to help them along, because helping other human beings thrive and succeed is the very nature of what it means to be human and to be a Stoic. The practical application of that might look something like this. When you wake up in the morning, prepare your mind for the day by reminding yourself that human beings you run into are not likely to be working towards developing better philosophical training or character, that they're much more likely to be wrapped up in whatever circumstances they find themselves in. And when I say remind yourself, I mean that you should do this actively. Say it out loud to yourself and agree with what you're saying. Stand in front of a mirror, as an example, and say it. Or while you're preparing your breakfast, say it. Or as you're showering or washing your face, say it. If you want to come to naturally believe this truth without having to say it, you'll need to get into the habit of reminding yourself of it until you no longer have to remind yourself of it. And that will take time. If you're new to Stoicism, there is no world in which this is the first time you've heard this, and tomorrow morning all of your interactions with people will be as suggested in what Marcus has said in his first meditation. It takes a lot of practice and effort to remember that that very obnoxious person on the bus, or that individual you bump into the grocery store and who says something unkind to you, it takes a lot of practice to behave in the way that Stoicism suggests you do. And it can start with this daily reminder. When you run into people like this and are perhaps frustrated with them and begin to say to yourself, which you will, why are they not concerned with becoming better? Why aren't they better? When you think this, remind yourself that there were many, many years of your own life which passed before you were concerned with such things. Why do you expect more from them than you were able to achieve yourself? And if that is not the case, perhaps you've been working on developing your character and philosophical training from a very young age. Then instead say this: why should I expect that everyone's path be the same as mine? Then consider what you might be able to do in that moment to help those around you, because remember, that is your human purpose in concerns to other human beings and according to Stoicism. Can you return their surliness with kindness? Can you offer any assistance or perhaps interject a different point of view that might change their course of thinking? Maybe you can do nothing. That is often the case, but maybe you can. As you may be starting to realize just after this first of Marcus's meditations, Stoicism is not an inactive philosophy, nor is it one that attempts to divorce its practitioners from their humanity. Instead, Stoicism is effort, it is work, and it asks of us to be actively concerned with the well-being of ourselves and our fellow human beings. Thank you for listening to this episode of Practical Stoicism. If you're enjoying the podcast, I would ask that you leave it a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. If you have any feedback for this episode, or if you'd like to make a suggestion for a future episode, you can send an email to tanner@tannerhelps.com and share that with me that way. Again, thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and until next time, take care.